This is Makoto Yaemori, the strongest cultivator who ever lived, facing off against an army of demons. And just like that, he was the one who saved the entire continent from destruction by defeating the Demon King's army. After the great battle, our hero believes everything went off without a hitch, and that the danger is finally over. However, his companions show up looking shady and start talking about their next plan. In that moment, something unexpected happens, and a sudden attack comes from his own allies. With that, Yaemori is run through with a stake by the very people he trusted most. In exchange for his great deeds, the hero's reward is betrayal from his comrades. With a face full of rage, he glares at the traitors, unable to believe what's happening. Lying on the ground, he asks why they betrayed him and swears they'll remember this for the rest of their lives. Screaming with his last breath, our protagonist promises to drag them all to heck with him. Suddenly, Yaemori wakes up with a start, hearing unfamiliar voices calling his name over and over. A woman approaches him, but all the guy can think is that he should be gone for good. Looking around, he sees he's surrounded by students and has no clue where he is. Totally lost, our protagonist starts to wonder if he somehow ended up in the underworld. Right after, some guy starts making fun of him for passing out in the middle of a test. Another guy mocks him, saying they shouldn't call him young master anymore since he got kicked out. A girl ignores the whole scene and calls for Kitama to get back to the test and set a new record. Kitama turns around with a smug look, agreeing with the girl, all full of himself. The teacher then tells everyone to continue the test, while our protagonist's mind is flooded with memories. Faced with the situation, he realizes he's no longer in his world and has been reincarnated into the body of a kid with the same name. From the memories, he learns he was born into a powerful family but was kicked out of the clan after his parents passed away. He's shocked to have been reincarnated into a world completely different from his own. From there, he notices that the people of this world don't know how to cultivate their inner energy. In this place, there's a special power in the air called Chui, but no one knows how to use it to their advantage. Even though it's faint, our protagonist can feel the slight presence of Qi around him, and because of his past life, he knows exactly the right way to absorb all that energy. So, he starts practicing and realizes he can strengthen his body with this power. As he strengthens his body, he finally remembers what it truly means to be a real cultivator. Just like that, the initial power of cultivation was enough to clear his blocked meridians. On top of all that, he also notices he got a little taller after everything. With his power awakened, he swears he'll return to his continent as soon as he recovers his original strength. From now on, his main goal is to get revenge on all the traitors who stabbed him in the back. But for now, his strength is only at the first stage, and he needs to take it slow to level up. Given the situation, he decides to use the test to assess the changes in his body and his new abilities. Right after, our protagonist approaches the group, and a teacher asks if he's feeling okay. He then confirms he's going to participate in the 100-meter dash that's happening. A bully laughs at him, pointing out that up next is Kitama, the school's record holder who's already got a spot in college. Kitama and his girlfriend also mock him, saying the guy doesn't have a shred of pride left. Our protagonist ignores them, thinking he's only at the first stage of cultivation at the moment. However, a cultivator's body has far greater potential than that of an ordinary person. The bully keeps taunting him, saying he's going up against the record holder, and that no one else wanted to race him. Not caring about the comments, Yaemori and Kitama get into position at the starting line for the race to begin. With both of them ready, the official gives the final command, and they prepare to run all out. Kitama glares at his opponent with a look of hatred, determined to humiliate him in front of everyone. A starting gun fires and the race finally begins for real. Kitama shoots off ahead while our protagonist stays put at the start, not moving an inch. He stands there for a second with a smirk on his face, leaving everyone confused. Seeing this, the bullies start laughing at him, thinking he's such a loser he can't even move. Our protagonist then thinks to himself that just 3 seconds will be enough to win. A moment later, he takes off at an insane speed, leaving everyone in the dust. The bullies are left with their jaws on the floor, unable to believe what they're seeing. The teacher is also shocked, as the existence of cultivators shatters the world's common sense. From there, he easily overtakes Kitama, displaying a strength that surpasses human limits. And just like that, he crosses the finish line long before his opponent, leaving everyone stunned. Meanwhile, Kitama is still running and is floored when he sees he's been left behind. The whole crowd is speechless at the guy's unbelievable performance. The difference between a cultivator and a normal person is like comparing modern humans to primitive ones. Basically, the gap between their powers is as vast as the sky and the earth. The teacher looks at the time and is shocked to see he clocked in at 9.88 seconds, setting a new record. Because of this, Kitama drops to his knees on the ground, completely humiliated and in disbelief over his defeat. The loser stays on the ground, breaking out in a cold sweat and yelling that it's impossible. Meanwhile, Yamori notes that his new body has perfect physical aptitude. From then on, he glares at his rival and promises to show everyone he can reach the top again. With the test over, our protagonist heads to the bathroom to reflect on his new life. He thinks that to reach the first stage of cultivation, he needs to use special elixirs, but the guy gets worried because those items are extremely expensive. Looking at his phone, he realizes the money from the body's previous owner is basically worthless. He then considers the idea of making and selling talismans to scrape together some cash. However, with only 1,000 yen in his account, he can't even buy the cheapest materials. At that moment, a guy appears at the bathroom door and starts staring down our hero. Right after, a group of bullies shows up and surrounds Yaemori with mocking looks. Haruo Asaki says he's going to collect this month's protection fee early, and Kidama is with him. Yaemori then remembers that the previous owner of this body always got beat up by them at school. Because of this, Kidama warns that something's off with the guy and lets Haru handle it. The boxing club captain steps up, saying a scrub like him is no trouble at all. He lunges forward, winding up a punch and thinking one hit is all it'll take. The guy faces the attack, thinking the old Makuto would just close his eyes and take it. But things are different now, and our protagonist is ready to fight back. Our protagonist easily catches the punch, surprising the attacker. From a cultivator's perspective, a boxing captain is just a weak, regular person. With that, Yaemori goes on the offensive, landing a kick on the first lackey. Next, he throws a powerful punch straight into the second goon's face. Kitama and his buddy are speechless, unable to believe this is the same Yaemori. Our protagonist then glares at the two of them with a cold look and asks if they're scared. Before they could react, he grabs the hands of the two remaining bullies. From there, the guy squeezes hard, showing off his overwhelming superiority. The two goons start screaming in pain, begging him to let them go. Yaemori just smirks and says not to be cold, because the party's just getting started. Desperate, they admit they were wrong and beg him to stop. Our hero throws both of them to the ground with a single move. Kidama is left on the floor, begging for mercy, completely terrified. Meanwhile, Haru quietly gets up and tries to sneak away from the scene. But Yaemori yells that he's not letting him escape and charges at the bully. With a devastating punch, our protagonist lands a clean hit right on Haru's face. The bully is sent flying hard against the lockers. The attacker is left on the ground, all banged up and unable to get up. Our hero then warns that next time, things won't end so nicely. Totally terrified, Kitama looks at the guy and thinks he's a monster. The other goons tremble in fear, telling Yaemori not to come any closer. He glares at them coldly and tells them to return everything that belongs to him. The guys are confused and ask what our protagonist is talking about. With a threatening look, he reminds them they took things from him, and Kidama agrees to give it all back. The guys take Haru to the nurse's office, and Yaemori knows they won't snitch. He reflects that school is a hassle, and decides he'll leave as soon as he can. Fortunately, he managed to get back the money the bullies had stolen. With this cash, he can finally buy materials and take the first step toward his revenge. With the money in hand, our protagonist begins to refine the materials he bought. He channels his spiritual energy into the items, creating talismans with mystical effects. With a focused expression, he prepares to finish the entire creation process. A moment later, the guy picks up the finished talismans, which look like colorful cards. Our protagonist smiles, thinking he can sell these and finally make some good money. 3 weeks go by, but our hero can't sell a single one of his talismans. People look at the items with suspicion and aren't interested in buying anything. He starts to get discouraged since he can't sell a thing. Suddenly, a bark gets his attention, and he turns to see what's going on. Our protagonist sees a little dog all banged up, running toward him. The little animal can't take it anymore and collapses on the ground from its severe injuries. Seeing the scene, he gets closer to check on the poor dog's condition. Our hero decides to test the effects of one of his talismans on the animal. He then uses a healing talisman that restores heavily injured organs and bodies. With that, the dog slowly opens its eyes, showing that the power really worked. With the help of the talisman, the dog makes a full recovery and barks excitedly. Our protagonist crouches down as the little animal rubs against him in gratitude. Suddenly, the little dog starts growling at a couple approaching them on the street. They are Shuwata and Shizuru Shuga from wealthy families, and she doesn't seem to care about the animal. The young woman tells her companion to take the mutt to a vet, and that she doesn't want to deal with it. A moment later, she notices something strange and is very surprised by what she sees. Because of this, Shizuru gets closer and asks what our hero did to the dog. She explains that the animal was covered in blood, and she thought it was a lost cause. Our protagonist notices she's holding a piece of paper and asks if she's going to visit someone in the hospital. From there, he realizes this is the perfect opportunity to sell his product. So, he shows her the talisman he used to heal the little animal. Shuwata doesn't believe a word of it and accuses the guy of being a big-time scammer. Furthermore, he says Yaemori must have run over the dog on purpose. Shizuru ignores the guy and asks if the talisman can be used on anyone. Desperate, she wants to know if the item can heal someone in a vegetative state. Our protagonist confirms he wants to save the person and explains that his power can heal brain damage. He then shows her a special talisman and says the item is perfect for this situation. Shuwada gets angry and tells the young woman not to believe this nonsense. Our hero ignores the guy and hands the talisman to the girl, explaining how to use it. From there, he reveals the prices, with the most expensive one costing 400,000 and the cheapest one 200,000 yen. Shizuru offers 1 million yen for all the talismans, leaving her friend shocked. Because of this, Shuwada lunges at our hero and tells him to get lost, but Yamori easily grabs the guy's hand, stopping the attack instantly. With a firm grip, our protagonist warns him not to interfere in his business. With a terrifying look, he tells the guy to leave and not to get in the way anymore. A moment later, our protagonist throws the attacker to the ground with a single move. Just like that, the deal is a success, and he hands the items over to the client. On top of that, he throws in 2 more for free, one for protection and another for a fireball. With a smirk, he says he hopes she never has to use those 2. Shizuru is moved by everything and thanks him from the bottom of her heart. Shizuru quickly turns around and asks for the name of the guy who helped her. Meanwhile, Shuwada yells that our hero is a con artist and not to trust him. The young woman admits she also thinks it's impossible but will do anything for a chance to save her mother. Right after, the little dog decides to follow our protagonist wherever he goes. With cash in his pocket, he can finally look for a decent place to live. From now on, his next step is to find medicinal herbs to speed up his cultivation. Suddenly, the little dog starts barking, drawing his attention to something nearby. He stumbles upon a mansion emanating strong spiritual energy. Our protagonist is surprised and wonders what's growing in that house's garden. To his surprise, he finds the rare silver heart grass, a very powerful herb. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Shuwada is having his injuries treated by a nurse. With his hand all banged up, he complains that our protagonist is not a nice guy. Full of anger, he swears that the next time they meet, things will be different. Suddenly, an imposing figure appears at the door and glares at him with a look of disapproval. This is Kenji Shuga, the city councilman, and he asks what they were thinking. From there, he turns to Shizuru and asks if she fell for a scammer's pitch. 2 nurses gossip that the councilman's daughter got duped and spent a fortune, but Shizuru ignores all the comments and says she just wants to try one more time. With the talisman in hand, she thinks this is her last chance and she has to try everything. Her father loses his patience and yells that's enough, that she's completely lost her mind. He can't believe his daughter fell for such a bogus story, and she asks what he's done. With a furious look, the girl turns to her father and decides to confront him once and for all. She accuses him of not visiting her mother while she was unconscious in the hospital. The young woman yells that if he had taken her to the hospital sooner, none of this would have happened. Finally, she says that if her mother passes, he'll just act like nothing happened. With a furious look, Kenji Suga raises his hand to strike his daughter Shizuru. However, he stops the motion mid-air and glares at her with an expression of pure rage. The man just sighs and brushes off his shoulder with disdain. With his back to the girl, he says she's become a completely insolent person. But Shizuru screams desperately that she won't let him stop her from trying. Determined, she approaches her mother's bed and swears she'll never give up. A moment later, the talisman in her hand glows intensely, releasing a blue light. Kenji turns around, startled by the flash, and asks what the heck is going on. To everyone's surprise, his mother Yoko Shuga opens her eyes and speaks to her daughter. Overcome with emotion, the young woman calls out for her mother while Kenji runs to get a doctor. With a smile on his face, he shouts down the hallway that his wife has finally woken up. A doctor and a nurse hear everything and are shocked by the unexpected news. Without wasting a second, the medical team rushes to the room to examine the patient. The doctor explains that she'll be able to return to a normal life in about 1.5 years. Shizuru looks at the talisman and realizes that all of this only happened thanks to it. Shizuru watches the talisman dissolve in her hand and confirms that it was what worked. The doctor and Kenji are jaw-dropped and shout that it's simply impossible. The doctor says it must be a miracle, and Shizuru glares at her father. Meanwhile, Shuwada trembles in fear and wonders if our hero is some kind of immortal being. Soon after, the young woman emotionally hugs her mother, who apologizes for all the suffering. With the other talisman in her hand, she vows to find Yimori to repay him. Far away, our protagonist finally finishes moving into a new place. He remembers all the traitors and swears he'll never forgive what they did. But to do that, he first needs to reach the 11th stage of QI refining. With a determined look, he promises that the day of his revenge is getting closer and closer. Lying in his bed, he realizes that the spiritual energy of this world is slowly fading. Our protagonist thinks he needs an item rich in power to continue. He thought that only spiritual springs or very rare materials could help him on his mission. But as luck would have it, he found silver heart grass growing inside his room. Unlike normal herbs, this item is used to refine elixirs that increase one's level. He plans to use the herb to create a pill and reach the second stage. With no time to waste, the guy decides he must start his training immediately. So, he goes to a market to look for the other ingredients he's still missing. He realizes that the items for the pill are way too expensive for him. Our hero thinks that even selling his talismans, he can't seem to escape his problems. With a watchful eye, he notices that those suspicious guys are back to observe him. They've been watching him for days, and today they look ready to finally do something. Tired of the situation, our protagonist decides he's going to face the guys once and for all. Suddenly, a girl appears and calls him by name, leaving the guy very surprised. The young woman asks why he's not going to college, and what he's doing in this weird place. The young woman says he was kicked out of his house, and that's why he doesn't have time for studying anymore. Our protagonist remembers that she's the classmate who used to stand up for the body's previous owner. Feeling sorry for him, the girl offers to lend him money so he can go to college. But Yamori refuses the help and says he has something to do before he leaves. Seeing his attitude, the young woman gets worried and thinks something very strange has happened. Right after, our hero enters a narrow alley to take care of his problems. With a determined look, he prepares to finish off all the guys at once. He starts running, and a goon with a knife appears to chase him. The attackers yell that he's running away and rush to try and catch him in the alley. The group of thugs corners the guy in a dead-end alley to trap him. He stops running and faces the enemies approaching him. With a confident smile, he warns that now they can't escape. The guy challenges the whole group to come and attack him all at once. Without fear, the entire gang reveals itself and prepares for combat with their weapons. The group's leader smiles and says the fun is just getting started for them. With a cold look, our protagonist asks why they spied on him and who sent them. The bald guy scoffs, saying he's a reckless dude for picking a fight with the big dogs. He then wonders why the young lady from the Amatani family is interested in a guy like him. Yamori recognizes the name and remembers that the body's previous owner was engaged to the young woman. However, the engagement was called off when he was kicked out of the family for being weak and powerless. Our hero decides he's going to make the guys talk the hard way. Hiding nearby, his classmate realizes the yakuza wants to attack Yamori. She thinks he doesn't stand a chance against so many armed men with his weak body. Because of this, the girl decides to call the police and ask for help as quickly as possible. Suddenly, one of the guys appears behind her and calls her kitty cat in a creepy way. The thug grabs her from behind and asks who she's calling. Our protagonist turns around when he hears the girl screaming for the attacker to let her go. At that moment, the real gang leader arrives and the goons get excited. Without hesitation, the new boss grabs the young woman by the hair to use her as a hostage. Yamori then wonders why his classmate followed him there. The boss mocks that Yamori is quite popular, seducing another little girl. Desperate, the young woman yells for Yamori to run because the guys are all armed. She says she's the daughter of the Makiyama family, and they can't lay a finger on her. But the bald guy laughs and says if he takes her out right there, no one will ever find out. He then pulls out a knife and prepares to attack her while she begs him to stop. The attacker then warns that if she's going to blame someone, she should blame her own stupidity. Before he can do anything, our protagonist lunges forward with insane speed. With a precise strike, the guy hits the villain's hand, making him drop the knife. With a glint in his eye, he thinks that he didn't want to draw attention to himself. But he adds that getting caught and taking a beating isn't his style. A devastating punch lands squarely on the bald guy's face. The young woman is jaw dropped and wonders if that's really the Yamori she knows. The other goons are frozen in fear, not knowing what to do. Our hero then glares at them coldly and asks once more who sent them. Far away, a police officer receives an urgent call on the radio about a gang's movement. Surprised, Officer Kaya immediately asks for the criminal's exact location. The radio reports that over 30 guys went into an alley and took a girl hostage. He floors it and calls for backup without telling his boss. A moment later, he receives a warning to be careful, as the guys won't hesitate to take lives. Worried, the officer tries to call his colleague at the scene but gets no response. After a moment of silence, the radio replies saying backup isn't necessary. With a shaky voice, the officer on site starts talking about the kid he mentioned. He explains that the kid who was there simply defeated all the thugs by himself. The scene changes, and we see our protagonist holding the gang leader with ease. The bald guy can't believe the trash from the Yamori family defeated him so easily. With a cold look, Yamori asks who gave them information about his whereabouts. He then gives an ultimatum, demanding the thug answer everything in just 3 seconds. Terrified, the gang leader screams in pain and begs our hero to wait a moment. At that moment, his classmate appears and yells for Yamori to stop. The police arrive running, and one of them yells for Yamori not to sink to their level. Our protagonist sees the police and wonders if their arrival is just a coincidence. He knows it would be very easy to get rid of all the guys in front of him, but the guy decides he can't reveal his true strength to the officers right now. So, he drops the thug on the ground and decides to back off for now to avoid trouble. The bald guy breathes a sigh of relief, and our hero thinks he can't fight against the government's power. Officer Kaya is relieved and can't believe the guy handled all of that by himself. He's impressed that a single kid took down so many criminals at once. Kaya approaches him and introduces himself as a police officer from Numi City. The classmate also greets the officer with a friendly smile on her face. The two officers formally introduce themselves and assure them they'll take care of the whole situation. Our protagonist realizes the government saw everything, and that their surveillance is flawless. Kaya says his partner will take his statement but without asking about other things. Suddenly, the other officer calls out for the chief, who has just arrived at the scene. An older man appears with a smile and says the thugs would have escaped without him. The police chief, Onaga Kaizu, appears and places our hero under arrest for assault. He then shows an arrest warrant and glares at the guy with a malicious smile. The classmate is outraged and yells that they were the real aggressors. Onaga then questions the girl with a strange look, asking if they were really attacked. He says he only saw the protagonist beating up the guys, while the thug lets out a little laugh. Kaya loses his patience and confronts his chief, saying this is all a huge load of nonsense. But the man just replies coldly that he's not talking nonsense. With a threatening look, he warns that he can have the officer's job for his audacity. Full of rage, Kaya yells that his superior is a completely despicable and corrupt man. His partner holds him back and tells him to calm down and not lose his head. Yamori realizes that whoever sent them did everything they could to frame him. The chief mocks him, but our hero thinks this is his chance to get information. Yamori questions how the officer knew he was just a simple student. Onaga realizes he said too much, and our hero understands he's just someone's henchman. With a smile, he wonders if he should take care of the real mastermind behind this. Onaga plays dumb and orders his men to take our protagonist away. As he's being led away, a police officer cuffs him and his classmate looks very worried. With a smirk, he shows a button he swiped from the chief without anyone noticing. Onaga is shocked when he realizes his button is missing and doesn't know how it happened. Our hero then warns that next time, he won't just be taking a simple button. Full of rage, Onaga swears he'll remember what happened and won't let it slide. Soon after, our protagonist is taken to a dark cell inside the police station. Inside the cell, a giant, muscular man is sitting with his back to them, meditating in silence. A guard bangs on the bars with a baton to get the prisoner's attention. The guard says the person will be arriving soon, and that their request is very specific. The guy's mission is to eliminate our hero, and he agrees to the plan without hesitation. Our protagonist is taken to the cell and asks if the plan is to finish him off there. With a metallic clang, the cell door opens, and he's thrown inside. Upon entering the dark room, he faces two giant men watching him from the door. He asks with a smile if the guys are planning on taking him out. With a defiant look, he thinks the whole situation is very interesting. Yamori sees a muscular man in the corner and wonders if he's the real boss. The big guy explains that, out of principle, he's never hurt ordinary people in his life. He continues his speech, saying that from his perspective, people like the kid are weak. With a wicked smile, the man adds that he's too weak to be worth the trouble. He introduces himself as Funaki Zenjo and says he was hired to take the guy out. Our hero glares at him coldly and asks if he's also someone's subordinate. Yamori senses a strange energy and admits he can feel the enemy's power. Funaki then releases his pink aura and reveals that this power is called Ryetsu. Even facing this overwhelming power, our protagonist doesn't flinch and stares down his opponent. The attacker charges forward, yelling that he's going to send the kid to the next life. But our protagonist dodges the attack with impressive speed. Funaki is jaw-dropped, unable to believe the kid managed to dodge the blow. Yamori counters and says he seems to be a little mistaken. He then warns that the real weak one in that cell isn't who he thinks it is. A moment later, the guy lands a powerful punch and yells that the weak one is him. However, Funaki manages to grab our hero's leg to keep from falling. Using his brute force, he swings the guy through the air, intending to throw him. Yamori is thrown hard across the dark cell. Our protagonist flies through the air but manages to land on his feet without difficulty. Funaki admits he underestimated the kid and promises to teach him a painful lesson. Our hero just stares at him calmly and releases his own aura. A purple energy begins to emanate from his body for the fight. Without hesitation, Yamori charges straight at his opponent in the cell. He then lands a devastating punch right in Funaki's chest with all his might. The big guy is sent flying backward, feeling the impact of the blow. From the hit, Funaki spits blood and wonders what kind of power this is. He falls to the ground, completely shocked by our hero's overwhelming strength. But the attacker gets up angrily and prepares to attack with everything he's got again. Yamori lands a powerful kick that destroys part of the cell. Amidst the smoke, our protagonist stares down the enemy with a frightening calm. Funaki watches him, all beaten up but still with a look full of hatred. He charges forward, yelling that the kid shouldn't be so full of himself. Our hero doesn't even move and just watches the punch coming toward him. He then counters with a pinpoint punch right in the middle of his opponent's face. With the impact, the big guy spits more blood, his face completely distorted. He's sent flying backward, breaking the cell floor. Totally confused, Funaki wonders why he's losing like this. Our protagonist emerges with an intimidating red aura. From there, he readies his fist, which begins to glow with a blue energy. Without wasting time, Yamori goes for the final blow to end the fight. With the enemy on the ground, our hero grabs him by the face and demands to know who's behind this. His purple aura explodes with intensity, and he continues the interrogation without hesitation. Yamori then asks where the guy got that power called Rietsu. Far away, Onaga receives a call and asks in shock what kind of monster that is. He questions if the kid is really a monster, remembering he's just a failure from the Yamori family. With a worried look, he hopes everything can be resolved without any major issues. He then promises a promotion to the guy on the other end of the line, if everything works out. Back in the cell, our hero faces Funaki, who praises his courage for staying silent. With his face all beaten up, the attacker admits he underestimated our protagonist. Yamori then wonders if there are other cultivators like him in this world. Funaki begins to tell him about meeting a mysterious monk a few years ago. The monk used his hand to chop a giant tree in half with ease. The attacker's jaw dropped, unable to believe the man's absurd power. Soon after, the monk hands him a bottle of divine water for the guy to drink. So he drank the diluted water for years, just as the old monk had instructed. Because of this, his body changed and transformed into something truly extraordinary. Our protagonist realizes that the so-called divine water is actually a spiritual liquid. This energy source is very rare and serves as an excellent resource for cultivation. Yamori asks why a guy as strong as him would obey ordinary people. Funaki reveals that his son has a serious illness and needs a lot of money. With a sad look, he says the divine water didn't work on his boy's illness. Desperate, he yells that he needs cash to find a cure as soon as possible. Our protagonist then claims he can handle the illness and maybe save the boy. Funaki is shocked by the revelation and asks what the guy just said. Yamori explains that the water is a spiritual liquid and can be dangerous for normal people. From there, he shows a healing talisman as an example of what he can do. Funaki doubts the item's power and wonders what effect it could possibly have. Without hesitation, our hero activates the talisman, releasing a powerful green energy. The energy surrounds Funaki and heals all his wounds, leaving him shocked. With that, our protagonist gives him a choices, tell him who sent him and save his son. Or, he can be taken out right then and there, without a second thought. Faced with the threat, Funaki just gives a slight smirk. He then admits that, as expected, our protagonist is no ordinary person. Funaki then reveals that the person who contacted him was a guy named Hashimoto Kosei. Far away, Kosei scoffs at Onaga for being afraid of some nobody from the Yamori family. This is Hashimoto Kosei, the owner of the Kozen Club and the mastermind behind everything. With a smile, he asks someone if they want something to eat or drink. A moment later, we see a woman, all chained up and bruised, in a corner of the room. He approaches her and calls her a spoiled brat for not having good manners. With a sadistic look, the villain prepares to continue his fun with the young woman. Without any mercy, he rips the gag from her mouth with a violent pull. From there, he picks up a pair of pliers and asks which tooth he should pull next. The attacker then forces the tool into the girl's mouth to torture her even more. With a swift move, he pulls out one of her teeth without the slightest hesitation. At that moment, a butler announces that Lord Ama called to talk about our hero. Kosei says he's already taken care of it and will stop by the police station later. He then hands his cross necklace to Yamori, who looks at him, very confused. Our protagonist takes the necklace and realizes it's concentrated spiritual liquid. He thinks that with the liquid, the grass will bear fruit, and he'll be able to reach the second stage. With a smile, he says thanks and that this will be a great help for his plans. Funaki warns that Hashimoto will now start hunting him relentlessly. He adds that everyone who gets in that guy's sights doesn't end up well. Yamori calms him down and tells him not to forget the deal they made. With a cold look, he promises he'll send a message to Hashimoto for him. Far away, a wealthy woman arrives at Nihai University in her luxury car. With a confident air, she steps out of the vehicle and prepares to enter the building. This is Shizuru, the girl whose mother was healed by our hero's talismans. She thinks it's quite a coincidence that the guy is a freshman at the same school as her. The young woman decides to go to the dean's office to find out which class he's in. Meanwhile, Saki is arguing with a professor about Yamori's unjust arrest. Suddenly, the classroom door opens and an unexpected figure enters. Shizuru appears and the classmate recognizes her as a very famous upperclassman. The newcomer overhears the conversation and asks if they're talking about our hero. Far away at the police station, Officer Kaya slams his hand on his chief's desk in anger. He can't believe his superior is going to release a criminal they've been chasing for years. Full of indignation, the guy points at the man and accuses him of abuse of power. The corrupt chief glares at him and asks if he has any proof of what he's saying. Even so, Kaya insists that he knows his superior is plotting something behind his back. With a defiant look, the man tells him to say what he knows, but the guy can't. Suddenly, the office door is kicked open, and someone yells that the room is restricted. Saki and Shizuru burst in, and the classmate demands our hero's release. The chief is furious and yells about not even being able to stop outsiders. He wonders who the young woman is and thinks Yamori doesn't have any important connections. With a cigarette in his mouth, he says their friend is a suspect and can't be released. Kaya gets furious and yells that this is a load of baloney and makes no sense. The man just replies that as the chief, he can't leak any internal information. Saki then questions him why the yakuza guys aren't locked up there too. The chief threatens them, saying he'll arrest them for obstruction of justice if they don't leave. Unfazed, Shizuru just picks up her phone that was on the desk. She sits down calmly and dares him to try and arrest her if he has the guts. Full of rage, the chief orders his men to throw both of them in a cell immediately. Several police officers approach and surround the two girls to arrest them. Kaya yells once more that this is a clear abuse of authority on his part. Shizuru glares at him and asks if he thinks he can silence them with false accusations. The corrupt chief laughs and says that insulting a government official will only make their sentence worse. But Shizuru glares at him and says the thugs were doing some favors for him. The man realizes the girl is making things complicated for him. With a cold look, she suggests that our hero's situation can be resolved with money. Onaga says it's natural for the powerful to have privileges, that they're no exception. He then threatens that he can fabricate a story where they all lose their lives right there. Kaya and the girls are shocked and angry upon hearing the corrupt chief's threat. Shizuru then speaks into her phone and asks if Director Ogi heard all of that. A voice replies yes, and Onaga and the other officers are completely surprised. Terrified, the chief asks if she's talking to the real Director Ogi. From there, she introduces herself and accuses him of several serious crimes he has committed. Onaga is paralyzed and asks who the heck she is to talk like that. In a panic, he realizes our protagonist is connected to the powerful Suga family. The scene then shifts back to the cell where our hero is being held. Inside the cell, the necklace Funaki gave him begins to glow intensely. Yamori holds the necklace and thinks he can only use the spiritual liquid once. At that moment, he hears a noise and realizes someone is approaching his cell. A moment later, a woman in high heels walks down the corridor toward him. The cell door opens, and the young woman enters the dark space. Our hero then faces the unexpected visitor with a very serious look. To his surprise, Shizuru and Saki appear at the door and greet him cheerfully. Far away in a luxurious mansion, a blonde man shatters a glass and yells that everyone there is useless. He sits down, irritated, and complains that one is nearly gone and the other went to jail. With a worried look, the guy thinks that if the Ama family's mission fails, he won't be safe. At that moment, one of his subordinates approaches and asks what Lord Akimasa plans to do. Akimasa then decides he'll send his best man, but without taking out our hero for now. With a furious look, he swears he'll take care of that trash with his own hands to solve everything. Meanwhile, Yamori is in his room, lamenting having spent all his money. He then lays out his items on the floor, including Funaki's necklace and the silver heart grass. With everything ready, the guy begins the refining process, and a golden light emanates from the cauldron. He concentrates on creating the key gathering pill to increase his power. With the pill's power, our protagonist finally manages to evolve to the next level. He tests his new ability, Shadow Cloud Step, and moves at an incredible speed. Our hero feels confident, thinking that at this speed, not even bullets can hit him now. He reflects that he used up all the spiritual liquid and needs more items to keep evolving. Looking at his bank balance, he decides that going to Ryuta the normal way is too dangerous. With a card in his hand, he calculates that he needs 2 million yen for his trip. Suddenly, a TV commercial catches our protagonist's attention. The ad promotes a very popular beauty injection that promises to rejuvenate the skin. The guy gets a brilliant idea and picks up a small blue box. With a smile, he thinks that wealthy women are obsessed with youth. The scene then flashes back to 5 hours earlier, at a dinner with the Suga family heiress. Our hero realizes that because she's a councilman's daughter, she was able to contact the chief. Shizuru then says she called him there to ask for a small favor. Yamori is surprised and asks what the girl wants from him. The young woman asks if he knows the building of the city's largest cosmetics company. With a smile, she reveals that she's the owner and is throwing a party for her mother. Shizuru invites him to the party, leaving our hero shocked. The company building stands out at night, showing just how rich the girl is. Back in the present, he thinks about the Joyan pill, which was common in his world. He plans to sell a few pills to the rich ladies and get the cash. With the box glowing, our protagonist thinks the perfect chance is right in front of him. Meanwhile, at the party, Shizuru's uncles comment that she's getting too old to get married. They even say that if the young woman doesn't marry soon, she'll end up like her older sister, Masami. The uncle scoffs that her time is up and now the woman is useless to the clan. Because of this, Masami is speechless, and he mercilessly calls her a plague goddess. With a malicious look, the uncle says she should convince Shizuru to accept the marriage. Suddenly, Shizuru's mother starts coughing, and her daughter rushes to see if she's okay. The uncle says an unmarried woman is damaged goods and suggests the Oko family. But the older sister finally replies that she has her own ideas on the matter. The uncle then scoffs at her and asks what kind of thoughts she could possibly have now. Full of rage, he yells in the woman's face that it's just selfishness on her part. He even asks if she thinks she's going to get younger with a simple cosmetic product. Suddenly, a voice says, "I can do that," and everyone turns in surprise toward the entrance. Our protagonist appears and says that calling a woman damaged goods is rude. With his eyes glowing, he warns that there's a limit to everyone's rudeness there. The uncle is shocked and asks who the heck the guy is that just appeared out of nowhere. He then desperately yells for security to get our hero out of there. But Shizuru defends him, saying she invited Yamori because he saved her mother's life. The young woman's mother, in a wheelchair, also thanks him for selling her the talisman. Our protagonist politely says there's no need to thank him for that. The uncle scoffs and says she was fooled by a con artist and that science saved her. Yamori then introduces himself as a researcher and business partner of the family. A guy questions him, and our hero replies that the matter is about cosmetics and youth. With the box in his hand, he says he'll show everyone the answer to that discussion. He approaches Masami and asks her to help him with his demonstration. With a smile, he offers the box and asks the young woman to eat the item inside. Her eyes glow intensely as the box releases a very powerful energy. A moment later, the box opens, revealing the Joyan pill to all the guests. The uncle yells that it's a lie and that the pill is probably poisoned. Masami gets scared and asks if it's safe to take it, but Shizuru says she trusts Yamori and that she would take it herself without a problem. Hearing this, the girl's mother also says she trusts him because the guy saved her. Two guests comment that a rejuvenating medicine is something impossible to exist. Our protagonist then asks Masami if she doesn't want to feel what it was like to be young. She remembers all the times she was called old and washed up. With a determined look, she decides she'll try the pill and holds out her hand. The young woman takes the item and puts it in her mouth with great determination. Seeing the scene, the uncle and his wife are jaw-dropped, unable to believe she ate it. Masami stands still, and the guests think it was a lie and that the item might be poison. The uncle laughs and says he knew it was all nonsense, and they came there for nothing. Suddenly, a golden aura starts to glow around Masami's eye. A guy holds up a mirror, and everyone sees that her appearance is completely changing. The uncle and his wife are shocked and scream in disbelief at what they just saw. Impressed, a woman asks the price, and our hero says it costs 400,000 yen. All the guests start shouting and offering more and more for the pill. The uncle is shocked and can't believe they're making such a fuss over a single item. He realizes the real value is in the technique, and that distribution could take them to the top. His wife warns him that the company will go bankrupt, but he tells her to shut up without thinking. With a wicked smile, he plans to trick the guy and marry off Shizuru to get the pills. Suddenly, a fat man from the Kozen group offers 4 million for the rights to the item. The uncle gets desperate and offers 20 million yen so as not to lose the opportunity. He then tries to calm everyone down and reminds them that our hero is just a guest. With a fake smile, the man invites Yamori to talk in a private place. He then offers 30 million yen with a 30-70 profit split. Our protagonist questions if he gets 70% and the company gets 30. The uncle laughs and says it's the other way around, and that the Hoshisu family's connections are worth a lot. Suddenly, Shizuru appears and asks what kind of connections the Hoshisu family has. The uncle is shocked by the question and yells that she's part of the family too. Shizuru glares at him and reveals that he didn't think about the family when he lost 160 million. Desperate, the man denies everything and yells that the young woman is saying ridiculous things. With her phone in hand, she shows the proof of the fund withdrawal and the bank's collection notices. Masami and her mother are shocked and ask if he really used the company as collateral. The uncle starts to break out in a cold sweat and asks how she found out everything, and if she investigated them. Shizuru then accuses him of trying to squeeze money out of her mother like he did with her grandmother. With a furious look, the young woman yells that he's not getting a single cent from them. She reveals that he doesn't even have the 30 million, and was planning to trick our hero to profit. On the floor, the man desperately yells at Shizuru, saying it's not like that at all. He then begs Masami to help him, but she says she's disappointed in him. The guy clings to her and asks for help, being the last man of the Hoshisu family. But Masami says embezzling her mother's inheritance is something completely unforgivable to her. The older sister kicks him away and tells him to solve his own problems. The man is left on the floor, desperate, and asks if they're really going to abandon him. Finally, Shizuru gives him two choices: either he faces justice or lives in debt, or he can sell the bankrupt company to her for just 1 yen, and the guy is in shock. The other guests laugh at him and say he deserved what happened. Shizuru then turns to Yaemori and says there are many professionals at the party. From there, she offers to introduce him to some in case he needs help with business. He thinks 40 million for the rights is fair, but she warns him to be careful. But the young woman adds that she feels safe leaving the business in his hands. Later, Shizuru drops him off at home and compliments the place where he's living now. Our protagonist then gets out of the car and replies that the place is just a rental. He then thanks her for the ride and says it was a great help. She says they're friends, and he's surprised by the word she used. He watches her drive away with his hands in his pockets and a thoughtful look. Looking at the moon, our hero thinks this new life isn't so bad after all. He turns and walks toward the door of his new home. Calmly, the guy reaches for the doorknob and prepares to go inside. At that moment, the door creaks open, revealing a sliver of light. Upon entering the house, he finds a pool of blood on the living room floor. He then sees the little dog that had been following him, lying there with a knife in its back. With a furious look, our protagonist wonders what the heck is going on. Far away, a goon informs his boss that Yaemori went home with a woman. Akamasa orders them to capture the young woman to make our hero suffer. With a wicked smile, the villain says he hopes the guy likes the present he left him. He reveals the little dog, all injured on the living room floor. Desperate, our protagonist rushes toward his friend to help him. As he gets closer, he realizes the little animal is still breathing and can be saved. Without hesitation, the guy uses a healing talisman to try and save the dog's life. Suddenly, an assassin appears behind him, ready to strike from the back. The attacker lunges with his knife, trying to hit our hero with a fatal blow. With the blade in hand, the man prepares to deliver the final blow and end it all. However, Yaemori turns in time and lands a solid punch to the enemy's face. Holding the little dog, he counters with a devastating kick to the attacker's chin. A moment later, a group of goons appears and is shocked by what happened. Our protagonist then puts the animal on the floor and tells it to hide. With the first enemy down, he realizes the guy had more backup with him. With a purple aura, our protagonist asks if he should take them out one by one. The gang leader orders his goons to attack him, but not to take his life. One of the attackers charges with a weapon, but our hero doesn't even flinch. With a cold look, he prepares his counter-attack with purple energy in his hand. He hits the first enemy with a devastating blow, knocking him to the ground. With the first goon down, he says the count has just begun. Another thug gets angry and charges with a pipe, trying to hit him with everything he's got. But our protagonist easily blocks the attack, showing his superiority. He then counters with a powerful punch straight to the attacker's chest. The guy then grabs him by the neck, leaving the enemy completely terrified. Without any difficulty, he lifts the thug off the ground with just one hand. With the second one down, our hero faces the rest of the group, ready to fight. The guys change their plan and pull out their guns to shoot him. He uses his speed to dodge everything and promises to finish them all off. With a furious look, he vows to fight until they finally tell the truth. Far away, the villain Akamasa laughs as he prepares his torture instruments. He approaches Shizuru and scoffs that she's the dream woman of everyone in the city. The young woman is all chained to the bed, and the villain recognizes her as the councilman's daughter. At that moment, his phone starts ringing, and he prepares to answer the call. With a confident air, he answers and asks if the mission is over and if the target is gone. But on the other end of the line, our hero warns that his goons won't be waking up. With a smile, Yaemori says the guy really knows how to surprise someone. Akimasa then grabs Shizuru and reveals he has the councilman's daughter as a hostage. Hearing this, our protagonist's face fills with fury, and his eyes glow. Full of rage, he tells the villain to let her go and not to involve innocent people. Akamasa just laughs and says our hero is a very fun and bold kid. From there, he gives our protagonist a 40-minute deadline to arrive. The villain scoffs, saying he'll have to find the location himself, and hangs up. Our protagonist stands in silence, holding the phone after the call ends. In a fit of rage, he breaks the device and vows to find Hashimoto right now. Akamasa then decides he's going to film a video to provoke our protagonist. He approaches the young woman, who tries to resist in a total panic. But before he starts, he turns around, annoyed, asking what's going on. Two goons inform him that the warehouse's fire alarm has gone off. Akimasa yells that he ordered the alarm to be deactivated and goes to check the situation himself. Arriving at the dark location, he asks who the heck is there and what they're doing. Suddenly, the room door is kicked open, and one of his men flies out. With the door open, he sees the guard on the floor, and the room completely trashed. Shizuru then whispers our hero's name, knowing he's come to save her. The story flashes back 1 hour, and we see a guy on a motorcycle complaining about a delivery. With a letter in his hand, he confirms the address and sees he's in the right place for the job. He then looks at the mansion and wonders if that's our protagonist's house. Suddenly, a voice on his comms warns that Yaemori has finally returned home. A moment later, a goon guarantees that 6 assassins will take care of the guy for him. They also reveal that they captured a woman and are taking her with them. Hiding, the biker realizes that Akamasa sent assassins and kidnapped a young woman. The thug's car speeds away with the hostage inside. The man gets on his bike and decides to follow the guys to find out their location. He then floors it and starts chasing the kidnapper's vehicle down the street. Upon arriving at a large mansion, his phone starts to ring, and he answers the call. On the other end of the line, he reports that he tracked the goons and that Akamasa kidnapped the young woman. Yaemori asks if the address is 32 Harami Street, and he's shocked. Our protagonist says he made the goons spill everything before he passed out. Yaemori then asks for help getting his friend out of there and says he'll handle Hashimoto. With a furious look, our protagonist warns that he's going to drag the villain to heck. Meanwhile, in Akamasa's mansion, the villain is arguing with his goons in the hallway. He yells at the guys and asks why the warehouse alarm is still activated. Hiding, Funaki observes the scene and sees the blonde guy going to check the alarm himself. The goons complain that the job is tough and they can't even touch the hostage. Suddenly, one of them hears a suspicious noise and asks who's there. Funaki emerges with a purple aura, and the goon questions what he's doing. With a cold look, he apologizes and tells the guys to hang in there for a bit. He charges forward and lands a devastating punch on one of the mansion's guards. With the first enemy down, he prepares to take out the second goon. He finds Shizuru and says our hero now owes him a big favor. Without wasting time, he picks her up and says they need to get out of there fast. Funaki runs down the hallway to escape before the others notice. He approaches the door and says the car is in the garden and the guys won't be back. But suddenly, a beam of light pierces through his body, severely injuring him during the escape. From the attack, Funaki falls hard to the ground to protect the young woman from the impact. He's left on the floor, all beaten up and bleeding from the shot he took. Akimaso appears with a gun and boasts about his aim while his goons praise him. Lying on the ground, Funaki wonders why they came back to the location so quickly. The blonde villain scoffs at him and says he's surprised he had the courage to show up. With a forced smile, he gets up and greets the boss, saying it's been a while. Akimasa laughs and says it's a wonderful day because everyone came to be punished. With a sadistic look, the villain gets excited and can't wait for the fun to begin. But Funaki releases his aura and says he can only brag after defeating him. Far away, our protagonist finally arrives at the mansion's entrance for the rescue. The guards see him, and one of them asks with a suspicious air who the guy is. Our hero then emerges with a red aura and a completely threatening look. One of the goons approaches and asks if he's listening to what he's saying. Without a second thought, Yaemori lands a devastating punch to the guard's face. The goon is sent flying backward from the force of our hero's blow. The other guards are shocked by the scene, but prepare to attack our hero. The goons charge at him with their batons in a coordinated attack. But the guy dodges everything and counters with a sequence of fast and powerful blows. He takes down all the guards with impressive ease. With a furious look, he announces he's here to finish off Hashimoto once and for all. From the force of the blow, Funaki spits blood and is left completely unresponsive on the ground. Facing so many fallen goons, he laments being outnumbered in the fight. Lying on the ground, he blames himself for not listening to our hero and failing to save the girl. Akimasa glares at him and says that as soon as he's gone, he'll send everyone to the same place. With an insane look, he adds that first, he'll cut them all into little pieces. Suddenly, a bright flash appears, and an explosion occurs in the middle of the mansion. Startled, the blonde guy turns and asks who the heck dares to enter. Amidst the smoke, our protagonist's silhouette appears with a purple aura. With a cold look, he warns that he's the guy who came to send him to heck. Funaki glares at him and says it took the guy long enough to finally get there. Our protagonist then hands him a healing talisman and tells him to use the item. He recognizes the power and realizes it will work just like before. Full of rage, Akimasa points the gun and yells for his men to eliminate him. The goons start firing everything they have at our hero, but he dodges the bullets and says they don't work on a master of the clouds step. Using his speed, he lands a kick on a gun while dodging the shots. Akimasa is jaw-dropped and wonders what that insane speed is. Our protagonist continues to advance, taking down all the goons in his path. With his men on the ground, the villain stares at our hero with a terrified look. He turns in desperation and yells that he needs to escape to a safe place. Running, he thinks this wasn't part of the deal, and that the guy isn't just some trash. Reaching the security door, he yells for them to open it as fast as possible. He then tries to enter the password, but the panel says the code is incorrect. The villain screams in rage for not being able to escape. Suddenly, one of his goons is thrown hard against the metal door. Terrified, he tries to calm down, thinking that no one can defy his protector. He then yells that the one who wants the guy's life is the great Lord Ama. Our protagonist appears behind him and asks coldly who Lord Ama is. With a threatening look, he warns that he'll cause unbearable pain if he plays dumb. Desperate, the villain reveals that the Ama family wants to eliminate him because of a marriage. Our protagonist thinks that the body's previous owner never met Yuki Amaya. Akamasa boasts that only the Ama family could pull off such a feat and tells him to let him go. Our hero realizes that Joama must also be a cultivator. The villain then tries to bargain, saying he can help him see how valuable he is. Yamori glares at him with contempt and asks what kind of value he's talking about. With a confident smile, the blonde guy asks if he finally understands the situation. Out of patience, our protagonist lands a devastating punch right in the middle of the villain's face. He then lands another hard blow, sending the attacker to the other side. From the impact, the guy is thrown into a room and falls straight into the water. Inside, our hero finds several women in chains all beaten up. Seeing the scene, our protagonist's face fills with uncontrollable fury. From above, we see the tragic scene with our hero standing before all the hostages. With a dark look, he says the girls can better explain the villain's value. Without wasting time, he takes out his knife and prepares to free all the young women. With a single strike, the guy cuts the chains and frees the hostages from that place. With a metallic clang, the knife he used to cut the chains falls to the floor. With a cold look, our protagonist says the young women can do whatever they want with the villain. Desperate, Akimasa begs for his life and offers all the money he has. One of the women picks up a sword and says they don't want any of that from him. With a look of hatred, she warns that sending him to heck is enough for them. Far away, our hero uses his power to heal Shizuru, who is lying on the sofa. Funaki warns him to leave because the police are coming and asks if he's sure. With a calm look, he replies that he'll be back as soon as he hands the young woman over to the police. Funaki then questions him about what he's going to do now that he has the information. Our protagonist says he's going to investigate Ama, but Lamont's being outnumbered in the fight. Back at home, our protagonist relaxes a bit, but his mind can't rest. He thinks he defeated Hashimoto, but his partner is still out there and needs to be found. The little dog suddenly barks, as if warning him about something at the door. Yamori opens the door and is met by a man in a suit who calls him Lord Yamori. The man says he has a delivery from President Suga and a message for him to get ready to leave. Our hero is confused and wonders what the heck Shizuru is planning now. He then goes into his room to check the package he just received. With the package in hand, he calls Shizuru and asks why she sent him a suit. On the other end of the line, the young woman confirms he received it and says it's for a Hoshisu family party. Looking at the invitation, our protagonist wonders why he was also invited to the event. He then remembers something and asks in shock about his former fiancée. With a panicked expression, he begins to understand the terrible situation he's gotten himself into. Shizuru then confirms that the party is for Yuki Amaya, the daughter of the powerful Amaya family. At the party, we see two important men who control the city's business world. Now all dressed up, Yamori suspects they also want to get close to the Hoshisu family. Shizuru explains that just by being related to the Amaya family, everyone already wants to form a connection. She adds that the powerful family's daughter is about to arrive. The party hall is packed with important people, all awaiting the great Harris. Upon seeing the young woman, Yamori senses an energy and wonders if she's the previous owner's ex-fiancée. With a serious look, our protagonist watches the newcomer very carefully. This is Yuki Amaya, the daughter of the Amaya family, and next to her is Nana, the head of the Hoshisu family. A strong blue aura emanates from Yuki, and our hero realizes she's also a cultivator. He thinks she must know Ama and decides he'll ask about it later. With a smile, Shizuru approaches and greets Nana Hoshizu with great enthusiasm. She thanks her for her concern and says her mother is slowly recovering. The young woman then hands over the new Joyen pills as a gift for her aunt. Nana is surprised to see the famous pills, and everyone is impressed by the item. Yuki is also shocked to see the gift and stares at it with a curious look. She praises the pill's quality and says the creator must have incredible skill. Nana then asks who made the pills since they don't have any alchemy seal. Shizuru says the pills were made by her partner, and our hero introduces himself. Yuki and Nana are shocked to hear his name and can't believe what's happening. Nana recognizes him and praises his skill, criticizing the Yamori family for having no talent. With a cold look, Yuki interrupts Nana, saying she shouldn't have said that. The young woman says that if it weren't for that, he would have been accepted into the Amaya family a long time ago. Yamori realizes that noble families dominate cultivation, but their techniques are primitive. Yuki adds that because of his low status, his skill has no value. Nana then asks who the master is that taught him to refine pills. Our protagonist thinks about the question and remembers his life as a great cultivator. With a distant look, he remembers his old life and all the power he once had. He then says it's just a hobby and that he has no master, quickly changing the subject. Suddenly, a man with white hair arrives at the party and wishes Nana a happy birthday. The man's arrival catches everyone's attention, and they stare at him with great curiosity. Some guests recognize him as the heir of the powerful Ama family and are surprised. Nana then turns to our hero and reveals that he is Joe, the heir of the Ama family. Upon hearing the name, our protagonist is shocked and can't believe the guy is there at the party. With a mocking air, the guy asks who the young woman next to our hero is. Nana then introduces Shizuru as the heiress of the powerful Suga family to the newcomer. The two of them stare at each other with smirks, and the tension in the air becomes very thick between them. The hero introduces himself as Joe Ama and extends his hand to greet Shizuru. With a handshake, Joe Ama says he's heard many rumors about our protagonist. Yamori plays dumb and asks with a mocking tone who he is. Our hero then introduces himself and releases his spiritual energy in the middle of the party. He thinks that normal cultivators hide their power, but he's going to force his out. The energy flows into Joe's body, revealing his power meridians. Startled, the guy pulls his hand back and stares at our hero with a shocked look. He quickly composes himself and says it's a great honor to finally meet him. A moment later, the hare turns to Yuki and asks how she's been lately. Yamori watches the scene from afar and thinks something very strange is going on. He thinks he can't sense the guy's power and wonders if he's not a cultivator. Meanwhile, Joe reflects that our hero didn't even show fear upon hearing his name. The scene then changes, and we see all the guests dining in the grand party hall. The guests enjoy the banquet and toast cheerfully with glasses of wine. Suddenly, an announcer says that a dance party will begin after the meal. Several couples get up and start dancing in the middle of the main hall. Yamori adjusts his suit and thinks Ama isn't a cultivator and that he's been deceived. He wonders what the purpose behind this whole big lie could be. Meanwhile, Masami watches him from afar with a glass in her hand in the middle of the party. A random guy approaches her and asks her to dance with him in the hall. But the young woman rejects him on the spot and tells him to find someone else to dance with. Apparently, she's rejecting everyone, even the young master of the Katajiri family. Two guys gossip that there aren't many men who can catch her attention. Suddenly, one of them is shocked and points to something happening. Yuki and Shizuru also turn in surprise at the unexpected scene they see. Suddenly, a voice calls our hero by the name Makuto, and he turns with a smile. With an elegant gesture, he extends his hand to the young woman who is watching him from afar. The guy then asks her to dance, and she seems interested in the proposal. The gossipers are jaw-dropped and can't believe he had the courage. Far away, Joe Ama and his bodyguard are outside, preparing to leave. His goons approach and call him Lord Joe as his luxury car arrives. With a gesture, one of the goons opens the limousine door for the Ama family heir. Before getting in, the guy tells his men to stay away and not let anyone get close. The limousine speeds off and moves away from the grand party location. Two guys watch everything and wonder what he's going to do alone with his bodyguard. One of them explains that every bodyguard chosen by him ends up acting strangely. Suddenly, inside the car, the fake hair gets a hard slap across the face. The mysterious figure scolds him for holding another woman's hand in front of Yuki. With a bruised face, the guy desperately apologizes for what happened, but the real boss glares at him coldly and says if he can't handle this. With a threatening look, he swears the guy won't have a peaceful end. Outside, the fake hair Ama arrives and gets out of his luxury limousine. His men greet him as Lord Joe and receive him with great respect and formality. He then orders two of his goons to accompany him inside the party hall. One of the men notes that the rumors were right, and only one person got out of the car. He wonders what happened in there, and we see the real hair all tied up. With a bruised face and tears in his eyes, the guy can do absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, the party continues with musicians playing for the guests in the hall. The fake Joe says goodbye to Yuki, saying he has to leave because of an unforeseen issue. The young woman is surprised by the excuse and stares at him, not understanding the reason for his departure. Suddenly, all eyes turn to the dance floor with great curiosity. They are jaw-dropped when they see Masami dancing with our protagonist in the hall. With a slight blush on her face, she seems to be greatly enjoying the moment with him. Yamori also looks at her with a smile as he guides her across the dance floor. The music suddenly changes, and a new melody begins to play on the grand piano in the hall. The two continue their dance with perfect steps in the middle of all the guests. With a flushed face, Masami compliments him, saying he's quite a dancer. Our protagonist just smiles a little awkwardly at the compliment. He then remembers Masami saying he needs to fit in at the party to sell the pills. Our hero thinks that the previous owner learned to dance and his cultivator's body has perfect balance. Far away, Nana asks if Yuki knew about his skill, but she calls him a commoner. Nana then teases her, saying she seemed to be watching everything very closely. The fake Joe approaches and also comments that our protagonist has a talent for dancing. Nana then questions if he really doesn't know our hero, and the guy confirms it's the first time. She then thinks that even with all his power, Ama couldn't investigate an outcast kid. The fake Joe tries to calm things down, saying they can't cause trouble there, but Nana says the means are irrelevant because his aptitude for alchemy is extraordinary. She adds that she wants to connect that potential to the future, while our hero drinks his wine. With a determined look, the woman says she can't let him run loose anymore. The imposter realizes the woman is threatening him, and thinks he would have already gotten rid of her. He then looks at our protagonist and calls him a piece of trash with contempt. Two guests gossip, and one of them says the guy with Shizuru is from the Yamori family. The other remembers he was Yuki's ex, Fianki, and wonders if he came because of Joe. They comment that now that he's been kicked out, his only path is to try and win the girl back. They think he's just there to take advantage of Yuki and become noble again. Suddenly, the young woman says she's tired and is leaving the party early. With a sigh, Nana laments the girl's behavior and watches her leave. A moment later, the young woman turns and calls our hero by name, leaving him very confused. With an annoyed look, she says she knows exactly what he's thinking and tells him to stop. She accuses him of trying to get close to her to restore his old family's name. Our protagonist is clueless and wonders what the heck she's talking about. The young woman says refining pills might not make him rich, but it will help with his expenses. Unfazed, our hero just brings the glass to his lips and calmly drinks his wine. From there, she advises him to focus on himself and leaves the party hall. With a smirk, he wonders who she's talking about when she tells him to focus on himself. The girl stops walking and turns with a confused look, not understanding the guy's question. Our protagonist explains that her energy isn't intentional because she can't control it. Yuki is shocked, and with her aura glowing, she asks how he knows all that. Yamori warns that forcing cultivation will destroy her body, which is already at its limit. The two are left alone in the party hall as they discuss the young woman's delicate situation. With a smile, he says he can solve the problem, and she wonders how a commoner would know that. The young woman doubts him and asks if he really expects her to believe his words. Our hero looks at her and says that if she doesn't believe him, she's the one who will lose out. With a serious look, Yuki realizes her time to solve the problem is running out. The guy proposes a business deal and says he has a favor to ask. He then reveals he wants her to deliver something to the heir of the Ama family. From afar, the fake Joe and Nana watch the two whispering in the middle of the party hall. Full of rage, the imposter glares at the scene and whispers our hero's name with hatred. The scene then changes, and we see the outside of the mansion where the party is happening. Our protagonist and Masami leave the hall together and walk through the mansion's garden. Suddenly, a voice calls out to them, and Yamori turns to see who it is. Nana appears and says she's interested in the Joyen pill and calls him over to talk. The three of them walk through the mansion's garden under the starry night sky. Our protagonist thinks she wants more than just the pill, and Nana asks him to call her aunt. With a serious look, he reminds her that he's no longer part of the Yamori family. The woman then says he and Yuki are very similar, and the guy questions this. She explains that after her parents' passing, the girl was controlled by her uncle, who made all her decisions, but Yuki became a legendary cultivator and cannot escape her family. Masami is confused and asks what a cultivator is and what it means to transcend. Our hero explains it means reaching the third stage of cultivation, and the difference is huge. Because of this, Yuki used an impossible method to gain power, trading her life for strength. Yamori asks why she's telling him all this, and the woman says there's no cure. She explains that just like with Shizuru's mother, nothing she does has any effect. With a determined look, our protagonist states that he wants to save her from that fate. Nana says his skills are superior and thought there might still be hope. Masami is shocked that Nana trusts him more than doctors and remembers the talismans. Masami is shocked and wonders if the legendary cultivator thing is real. Our protagonist thinks that the cultivation methods of this world are very primitive. He also reflects that she's interested in the Joyen pill that he himself is selling. Nana then proposes a business deal, and Masami gets excited about the profits they can make. Nana scolds her for only thinking about money and says she really wants to help Yuki. With a sad look, she explains that the girl is a very kind and delicate person. From there, she reveals that Yuki rebelled once when the engagement was called off. Our hero listens to everything in silence, processing the new information about his former fiancée. Suddenly, the fake Joe appears in the garden and calls out for his aunt who was there with them. With a smile, he says he thought he'd say goodbye before leaving the grand party. The guy then notices that our hero and Masami were with her and stares at them closely. He then thanks our protagonist for everything that happened today. The imposter extends his hand and says he'd be happy if they could meet up. Yamori agrees with a smile and says the feeling is mutual about meeting. The two shake hands firmly, and a strange energy emerges between them. With a serious look, our protagonist feels there's something very strange about that guy. A spiritual energy emanates from the imposter, and Yamori senses his power. A moment later, the fake hair and his goons prepare to leave the party. One of the guards approaches and says he has a gift from Yuki for Lord Joe. Already inside the car, he takes the blue box and asks in surprise if the gift is really from Yuki. Upon opening the box, he finds an origami butterfly and doesn't understand its meaning. Annoyed, the guy hands the box to his goon and tells him not to open it without his permission. Suddenly, the real boss reveals himself and complains that he had to leave because of Hashimoto. With a glowing ring on his finger, he thinks about Nana Hoshisu and our protagonist. With a wicked smile and a blue aura, he swears they'll see what's coming to them. His eyes glow red, and he plans to use Yuki to take out both of them at once. We see the real Joe with his double, who just obeys him without questioning any orders. The goon holds the box, and the origami butterfly begins to glow with a green light. The scene then changes, and we see a large building in the middle of the city under the starry night sky. On top of the building, our hero observes the city and reflects on the recent events. On top of the building, our protagonist holds the intensely glowing origami butterfly. With a smirk, he remembers telling Ama they would see each other soon. The butterfly flies through the city, serving as a guide to find its target. The talisman stops moving, indicating that the enemy is inside that building. He then discovers that the building belongs to the Ama family and prepares for the invasion. Without wasting time, our protagonist jumps from the roof to start his plan. With a determined look, he yells that the real fun is about to begin. Meanwhile, Nana Hoshisu admires her rare plants that bear fruit every 3 years. She plans to trade these valuable items at a cultivator's tournament in 3 months. Suddenly, the woman senses a strange presence and asks who is approaching. A shadowy figure praises her senses, even with her injuries and weak cultivation. A moment later, a bald monk appears with a red aura and says she's still sharp. With a shocked face, she realizes the intruders are also powerful cultivators. The woman asks who they are and what they want while thinking of a way to escape. But the monk scoffs and asks if the head of the Hoshisu family is planning to run. The fat monk says that a lion uses all its strength even to hunt a rabbit. Nana notes that the two are being very cautious with her in the garden. With a smirk, she then asks what their real objective is. The fat monk tells her to come with them and not to try anything stupid. But the bald monk suggests it would be easier to just break her arms and legs. Nana then touches a strange plant and asks where they think they are. She releases a gas from the plant and says she'll entertain them properly. The bald monk is surprised by the smoke and asks what the heck it is. The other monk covers his mouth and realizes the smoke is actually a powerful poison. She explains that with a blade of grass in her mouth, the poison doesn't affect her, and this will buy her time. She decides she needs to escape because she doesn't stand a chance against 2 opponents. Suddenly, a pair of red eyes appears in front of her with a threatening aura. The woman is shocked and doesn't understand what's happening. A shadowy figure appears, and she wonders if it's the shadow art. Because of this, she understands that the guy in front of her is from the Hidden Shadow sect. The shadowy figure confirms he's from the Hidden Shadow sect, and that they destroyed the 100 Herbs sect. Nana wonders who he is, as she thinks their time hasn't come yet. The woman is jaw-dropped when she finally sees the mysterious intruder's face. With a wicked smile, our protagonist reveals his identity and asks if she's surprised. Far away, a guard yawns and says his shift is over, and he can finally go get something to eat. His partner agrees and suggests they get some hot pot because of the cold. One of them wonders what Lord Joe is eating and concludes it must be a gourmet feast. Using his shadow cloud step, our hero slips past the guards without being noticed. With the talisman in his hand, he wonders if this is really the true Joe Ama's room. The origami butterfly then flies and stops in front of a door, indicating the right location. Our protagonist follows the talisman and approaches the door to check the room. He realizes the hair isn't inside and wonders where he could have gone. Meanwhile, the real Joe is eating instant noodles in a messy room. He reflects that he's never had a choice in his life and that things remain the same. Eating his noodles, he wonders if he didn't want to live in a mansion and eat well. With a fork in hand, the double wonders why his life ended up this way. Full of hatred, he questions why he suffers so much just for looking like the original. He then remembers when the real Joe kept him tied up inside the car. The boss glares at him and reminds him that everyone knows what would happen if they found out. With a cold look, he says the guy is just a fake that he keeps alive nearby. Tied up and crying, the double hears that his only value is to serve as a copy of the original. Back in the present, he scoffs at the order not to open the box and decides to disobey. He opens the box, and the origami butterfly glows with a strong green light. The origami flies out, and the guy is startled, not understanding what the heck it is. Suddenly, a shadow appears behind him, and the fake asks who's in the room. Our protagonist then lands a hard punch, making the double scream in pain. The guy falls to the ground, completely confused, while our hero stares at him with a serious look. He understands why he didn't feel any spiritual energy and asks if the guy recognizes him. Terrified, the double recognizes him from the party and yells that he's Joe Ama, telling him to back off. But our protagonist glares at him and says he's wrong, because he's nothing but a fake. With his eyes glowing red, our protagonist demands to know where the real Joe Ama is. Meanwhile, a group of goons prepares for an ambush in a dark alley. The group leader speaks on the phone, saying the target always passes through there and the ambush is set. He promises to break the target's arms and legs and deliver him to Lord Joe without delay. With a confident air, our hero calmly walks toward the ambush alley. He reflects on the existence of a spiritual item and wonders if there's a 4th stage cultivator behind it. A spiritual item is a tool with special abilities created with a lot of spiritual energy. He thinks that forging such an item requires precise control that only a 4th stage cultivator possesses. But if the Ama family has a spiritual spring, the story changes completely for him. He decides that after dealing with Ama, he'll look for the Ryuta spring to evolve. Suddenly, the attackers surround him in the alley, and the leader says he took too long to show up. Our protagonist then faces the group of thugs waiting for him with a threatening air in the alley. The leader scoffs and says someone paid a lot for them to take care of our hero for good. With a purple aura, our protagonist just glares at the attackers with a smirk. The group leader gets irritated and wonders what's up with that look. With a furious look, the group leader orders his guns to get our hero at once. The attackers charge forward, yelling for our protagonist to prepare for the end. With a confident smile, the leader boasts about bringing his best men for the fight. But to his surprise, our hero takes down all the goons with incredible speed. The leader is left jaw dropped, unable to believe what just happened. Our protagonist lands a devastating punch on one of the goons, knocking him to the ground. With a single blow, he takes down another enemy with overwhelming force in the alley. The leader yells that it's impossible and wonders if our protagonist is even human. With the attackers on the ground, our hero asks whose order it was to attack him. Far away at Nanahosh's residence, everything is destroyed and trashed. Yuki arrives at the scene and finds her men investigating the crime scene. One of the guards approaches and shows her the footage from the rooftop camera. He explains that around 1 in the morning, the 2 monks attacked Nana on the terrace. The guard then reveals that there were 3 intruders in total and that they have a face. Yuki then looks at the footage and recognizes the 3rd attacker as our protagonist from the party. Yuki stares at the footage and recognizes Yamori's face on the screen with a smile. A limousine pulls up in front of a luxury house in a very wealthy neighborhood. With her phone in her hand, Yuki seems determined to find our hero's whereabouts. She receives a message with a photo and the address 430 Emiya Street. The young woman confirms that this is the right place and stares at the house. With a furious look, she can't believe Yamori went after her relative. Funaki then appears with a broken arm and questions her about her business. The young woman glares at him and demands he take her to Yamori, thinking he kidnapped her aunt. So, he takes her inside and informs her that the guy is at the mansion at that moment. Upon entering, she sees several men working and wonders if they are all subordinates. The former gang leader approaches and offers our protagonist a glass of water. Relaxing in his chair, he hears her voice and turns, surprised to find her there. Yuki charges forward furiously and tells him to release her aunt immediately to solve the problem. Our protagonist is confused by the accusation and asks what she's talking about. The young woman confronts him up close and questions the meaning of kidnapping her aunt. With an annoyed look, our protagonist questions if she suspects him of the kidnapping. Yuki then yells at him not to play dumb and shows proof on her tablet. The footage reveals a person identical to our hero with Nana on the destroyed rooftop. In the recording, the supposed Yamori has a very wicked and suspicious smile on his face. Our protagonist realizes that someone impersonated him to kidnap her aunt. Curious, the young woman tells him to return her relative, or she will punish him with her power. Yamori denies everything and says he would never go to her house in the middle of the night. Yuki is shocked by the answer and wonders if this wasn't the guy's doing. The ex-chief then shows the conversation history with Lord Joe to prove the alibi. The young woman is still suspicious and questions him about the security camera footage. So, he shows a video he recorded in another location as his own evidence. In the video, the fake reveals he's just a double who impersonated the real Joe. Furthermore, he explains that the real boss uses a ring to disguise himself as a guard. Yuki's jaw dropped and wonders if Joe can really change his appearance like that. Our protagonist confirms he must have a spiritual item to be able to do that. Yuki is shocked and can't believe Lord Joe has such a precious and rare item. Our protagonist explains that the plan was to impersonate him and frame him. Full of rage, the young woman says she'll handle everything, but Yamori warns that her aunt is in danger. Desperate, she yells and asks what she should do, as she can't just stand by. Yamori then reveals there's a way to use the enemy's own plan against him. With a smirk, he says they're gonna make Joe dig his own grave. Far away, a man in a white suit sucks the life force from his victim, who screams in pain. The guy's body falls lifelessly to the ground, and the villain finishes his dark ritual. The attacker complains that the taste of a common person's energy is quite mediocre and bland. A fat monk then appears and explains that normal people's energy is not suitable for young Master Song. He continues, saying that his brother took care of a woman, and that the master can devour her whenever he wishes. Young Master Song is excited because upon entering the first stage, he will have a seat on the council. The fat monk thanks young Master Song for the great opportunity offered. Another monk arrives and reports that they have captured our hero and asks what to do with him. Young Master Song laughs and orders them to take the guy to Gaian Temple. but without finishing him off. With a malicious look, he vows to personally rip out our protagonist's tongue. The scene then shifts to Gaian Temple, where several goons in suits are waiting for something. A guy with a ponytail yells for everyone to stop talking, as they weren't paid for that. Another goon mocks his colleague for taking the guard duty so seriously. Suddenly, the guy with the ponytail smiles and announces that young Master Song has finally arrived. With a superior air, young Master Song walks as his goons greet him. A goon approaches and asks why young Master Song came to inspect personally. He orders Jiang Sheng to throw away the communication devices, and the goon is very confused. With a cold look, the villain asks if he now needs approval to give orders. Terrified, the goon agrees and says he will take the other men down the mountain. Young Master Song stares at the horizon and thinks something very strange is happening. From there, Jiang Sheng realizes that the boss has never called him by name before. With the men in position, a white van departs from the temple at high speed. Soon after, our protagonist is taken out of the vehicle with his hands tied. A masked goon glares at him and tells him to behave and not to try anything. With the monks by his side, young Master Song greets our hero with a smile. Yaemori recognizes him as Song Shaoan and asks what he plans to do. The villain scoffs and asks if he never thought a day like this would come. With a wicked smile, he questions where all his courage from the banquet went. Full of rage, the man calls him an insect for daring to speak to Ning Qingshu in front of him. He then points at our hero and says his biggest mistake was letting him live. Our protagonist asks if Zheng Wenqiao is also involved and why he is being hunted. With a dark smile, Song Shaoan scoffs at the question and asks what the reason would be. Full of hatred, he yells that a piece of trash like him being engaged to Ning Qingshu is a stain on his life. Yaemori then wonders if the guy wants to finish him off just for that. With a purple aura, the villain says that taking him out now would be a huge waste. From there, he summons a shadow creature to show a divine miracle. Our hero stares at the creature and wonders if it's some kind of summoning. The villain reveals he will feed the old Jonai to his shadow and become immortal. With a wicked smile, he adds that he will become the god everyone worships. Yaemori questions why he wants him alive instead of just finishing him off for good. The villain explains that Ning Qingshu is looking for him, and that he left the evidence on purpose. This way, he creates a scene where a shadowy figure is the culprit for everything. The plan is to make our hero look like the kidnapper and murderer of Jonai to everyone. With a smirk, Yaemori says that he really did say it all out loud. Song Shaoan is confused by the response and asks what he meant by that. Our protagonist breaks the ropes and asks if the person next to him heard everything. The goon removes the mask and reveals herself as Ning Qingshu with a furious look. With her eyes glowing blue, she yells that she heard everything very clearly. Terrified, Song Shaoan tries to explain himself, saying he was just joking with her. With a blue aura, the young woman yells that there's nothing to explain and tells him to hand over her aunt. Full of rage, she vows that she won't let the Song family get away with this. Furious, the villain yells that our hero dared to trick him like that. Yaemori replies that he admitted everything himself, and that he didn't trick him at all. With a serious look, our protagonist says he can only say one thing. With his eyes glowing red, he calls him stupid for revealing the whole plan. The villain screams in rage with his eyes glowing blue and prepares to attack. Ning Qingshu says that she has already notified the Zhou family, and that our hero can leave. She adds that he shouldn't get involved because the opponent has cultivation methods. The villain gets even more furious seeing them talking so intimately in front of him. Full of hatred, he points at our hero and orders his goons to finish him off for good. With a blue aura, Ning Qingshu steps in front and yells for them not to dare. The two monks charge forward and prepare to attack with their white auras. The villain threatens her with his phone, saying he can finish off her aunt at any moment. He then questions whether she will protect our hero or the relative who is in danger. Yaemori tells her not to worry, and the young woman looks at the guy, very confused. With a calm look, she watches him as he takes out his phone to show something. He shows a photo of Jonah being rescued, and the villain is shocked by the image. Song Shaoan yells that it's impossible because he had many men watching the location. Our protagonist then shows another photo of the empty captivity to prove the truth. The story flashes back 15 minutes, and we see the guns with Jonai at the base of the mountain. Young Master Song tells them to just wait, and Jiang Sheng is confused. The goon says he's going to make a call and asks the others to wait there. Away from the others, he makes sure no one followed him and takes out his phone. From there, he sends a message to our hero, saying the plan worked. Back in the present, the villain releases his purple aura and yells that the idiot betrayed him. Ning Qingshu is impressed that he rescued her aunt so easily and considers the level of his plan. She then looks at the guy and wonders if he is really the same Yaemori she used to know. Full of hatred, Song Shaoan orders the two monks to finish off our hero while he takes care of the girl. With that, the two goons charge at our protagonist and Ning Qingshu. The The villain then releases a purple energy and traps the young woman with his shadow power. She is completely paralyzed, unable to move to help. The villain tells her to watch the guy's demise, and she screams for our hero to run. The two monks charge toward our protagonist to attack. Song Shaoan scoffs at the girl and says she can't protect anything at all. The young woman blames herself for underestimating the enemy and for agreeing to go with him. Our protagonist is surrounded by the two monks who prepare for combat. However, he easily blocks their blows, leaving the attackers very surprised. He then grabs one of the monks' heads with just one hand. Without hesitation, our hero lands a powerful knee strike straight to the goon's face. Finally, he uses his shadow cloud step and goes after the second enemy. Ning Qingshu's jaw dropped and wonders how his strength can be so great. From the blow, the second monk is thrown hard backward and falls to the ground. Suddenly, the body of the fallen goon on the ground begins to melt strangely. The body transforms into a golden puddle that spins and reforms in an instant. Angrily, the monk reveals that it was a very rare substitution talisman. Our protagonist emerges with red eyes and prepares for the next attack. With a blue aura, he charges toward the monk and attacks him with great speed. Song Shaoan is shocked and realizes his speed is not that of an ordinary person. Our protagonist reveals his true form with a blue aura. With a serious look, he reveals that he is also a cultivator, to everyone's surprise. Ning Qingshu is shocked by the revelation and wonders if he is really a cultivator. With a blue aura at his feet, our hero says he was looking forward to meeting him. A blue energy envelopes his fist, and he prepares for the coming combat. He then remembers all the times they sent him to jail to attack him, and he also remembers when they kidnapped his friend and hurt his little dog. Finally, he remembers Ning Qingshu, the beautiful woman the villain so desired. Yamori says that from the beginning, he's been like a fly buzzing non-stop in his ear. With red eyes, he warns that he has tolerated him for too long and it's time to silence him.